cover here. Already a little bit behind, so.
Welcome, everybody. First thing we want to talk about this morning, especially for all of our brand new people, is how do we get on and off of this racetrack safely? That sounds kind of mundane, but the fact is, when you're getting on or off of the track, you're doing something different than most of the other people. Different is where problems are more likely to occur, so we want to make sure we're all on the same page. So getting onto the track, right now we're here in the pavilion. To get onto the track today, you're just going to go all the way down to the east end of the paddock. Before you hit the wall here, curl around to the right. You'll enter onto the hot pit lane through this gate right here. We will have a staff person there. They're going to stop you and want to see the wristband, the colored wristband that we put on your left wrist every time that you go out. So make sure you stop, show them the wristband. Once he waves you by, head out onto the hot pit lane, and then the track entry curls around here and blends on right there to turn 2. There's a lot of room out there. Just get up to speed and blend in. Please do not stop on the entry road and wait for a gap or anything like that. Just keep right on going. For the SCCA racers this weekend, tomorrow morning, to get into your false grid, which is all through here, you're going to want to go far to the north and then go across and filter in this way. For today, you just go straight across. We are doing the full course today and all weekend. There's a couple shortcut sections out there in the middle for alternate configurations, but we're going to ignore those today. Use the full outer course. Track exits right here after turn 15. It peels off to your left, so this is downhill through the corkscrew. Track exit peels off to your left there. We got a closer view of that. This is the path we want you to take when you're exiting. So you come off the track here. Once you get onto the hot pit lane, go all the way down to the east end, right before where you came on, to turn left there to get back into the cold pit. There's some cones out there to kind of guide you. Two important things about exiting the track. One, we want you to signal so the drivers behind you know that you intend to exit. This is especially important if you're doing it in the middle of the session. But either way, we want you to signal between turns 12 and 13. The signal we want you to use is the left fist as high as you can out the window of the car. This says, I'm exiting. We got a lot of open wheel cars here today with arm restraints. So just kind of do the best you can. And be aware that if you're behind an open wheel car, keep an eye out for that. Most important thing about exiting the track. This is a view of the front straightaway coming out the last turn. Here you can see the track exit road that peels off to your left, and the front straightaway just goes straight. Great big white dividing line right here. That's a track exit commitment line. The idea behind that is if you're staying on the track, you go to the right of that line and go up the front straightaway. If you're exiting the track, we want you to hug the left side and enter that lane without crossing the white line. What we don't want you to do is swing out to the right and go back across to exit. Because if you swing out to the right and they try to pass, we don't want you to cut in front of them. Okay, so do not cross the white line. We have an example here of why. One of these gentlemen is here with us this morning. But this is before the white line existed, which is right here now. But yeah, we don't want that to happen to anybody today, okay? So that's why the white line exists. This and several other examples, including one with a guy left in an ambulance. It's a very easy rule to follow. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to do that. You don't have to slow down that much. I can do it at 50 miles an hour in the record. Okay, so you guys don't have any excuse not to make it. We do enforce this rule very strictly. It's easy to follow. If the consequences really suck, we have 3 go-home rules today. The first one is if you cross the white line with even a single wheel, it's a 99% chance we're going to take your wristband and be done for the day. Do not cross the white line to exit the track, please. Stay left. Once you get off the track up onto the hot pit lane, if you want to stop in the hot pit lane, that's fine. Get left of the yellow line that's out there. Leave the right side of the hot pit lane as a through lane. This is a picture of the hot pit lane, so if you're going to stop, check your tires or anything, get over here in this left yellow line, leave the right side as a drive-through. If you want to go back out onto the track directly from the hot pit lane, if there's time left in your session, then you can do that. You just go to the right of the cones that are down on the far end. You can go past them and go right back out. There is a track entry closed sign on the far end of the hot pit lane. It's right out in the middle. Looks like this. It's got strobe lights on it. They're a lot brighter in person, but it says track entry closed when flashing. At the end of each session, we'll turn the strobe lights on that sign so we don't have people continue to filter out while we're trying to shut the track down. So again, if those strobe lights are on, you have to turn left and go into the cold pit. You cannot re-enter the track. There's an identical sign that's facing you when you're getting your wristband checked. Same thing. The lights are on. Stay there until the lights go out and the track staff directs you out. General rules. Everybody in the car today has to be at least 18. Passengers and drivers. Unless you're signaling, keep your hands, feet, head, all that good stuff inside the vehicle. If you're driving a production car, you want windows down. At a minimum, the front driver's side and passenger side window have to be all the way down whenever you're on the track. We don't allow 4-point harnesses. If you've upgraded your harness, it needs to be at least a 5-point, or you need to stick with the OEM 3-point harnesses. If you do have a 5-point harness, and all the racers should already have one of these, if you've got a street car with a 5-point, I cannot strongly enough recommend you get yourself a Hans device. It's not mandatory for our program yet, but that may be coming. So get yourself a Hans, and we don't allow any drifting. The back end of the car steps out because you're at the limit of traction. That's fine. But if you're intentionally pitching it sideways and trying to smoke the tires, we're going to bring you in and say, please don't do that anymore. So please don't do that. Let's talk about flags and lights. For the most part, we use LED lights like this one rather than flags to let you know about conditions around the track. We do still have one physical flag that we use, so it's important first to know which ones of the stations out there have people in them and which ones don't, because that's the only place where you might see the flag. The best way to know that, good general rule, look at the bunkers. Get in the habit of looking at every corner bunker as you go around the track. That's where the lights are mounted, and that way you'll know which ones have people in them. The people today are going to be in the tower in turn 1, turn 4, 5, 8, 12, and 13. So again, if you've never been on the track before, that doesn't mean a whole lot. We go back to look at the bunkers. You'll be able to tell which ones have people in them. The ones with the people are where you might see this meatball flag. This flag is vehicle specific. It is a non-emergency flag. Vehicle specific means it's for one car at a time. If that car is you, as you approach the corner, they'll hold the flag up, and as you go by, they'll fold it up and they'll point it at you as you go by, or they might wave it and point at you, but they'll indicate who it's for. If they're pointing at you, please give a wave. Acknowledge somehow that you saw the flag. And again, it's not an emergency. All this means is we want you to come and talk to us about something. So the next time you come by the track exit, you give your signal, left of the white line, exit the track, and when you come up onto the hot pit lane, great big sign, your meatball flag, stop here. It's right out in front of the building. Just pull up left of that sign, we'll come out and talk to you, let you know what's going on. For the rest, we have LED corner lights. There's one of those big light panels mounted at all 15 bunkers around the track, and there's one here over the start-finish line. They're operated remotely, so just because there's not a person in every bunker, don't think that those lights don't work. Again, get in the habit of looking at every corner bunker as you're going around the track. When the lights are off, that's equivalent to a green. That's good. All is well. Keep doing what you're doing. We keep it really simple. There's 5 light conditions that you might see today on an open lapping day. The first one is yellow. If there's something unusual going on ahead of you on the track, we'll turn on a yellow light. It'll either be solid or it will be flashing, depending on how serious the incident ahead of you is. So if it's a solid yellow, that's the less serious of the two. Solid yellow for us indicates something happening off of the track, not in an impact zone. Generally not a big deal, just something slightly unusual. So it's really just kind of heads up, you guys. We use the solid yellow pretty liberally. Because we do that, we do not have any restrictions on the open lapping day under a solid yellow light. It's just a heads up for you guys to pay attention. There's nothing that you have to do, nothing that you're not allowed to do under a solid yellow. Just pay a little extra special attention. We will do the solid yellow at all stations around the track for the first 2 minutes or so of each session. So if you haven't seen the lights before, try to get out at the beginning of the session so you can get a lap and get used to what they look like and where they're mounted and all that. If whatever's going on ahead of you is more serious, the yellow light will be flashing. Flashing yellow indicates something happening on the asphalt or in an impact zone or just generally more serious. We do have 2 rules under a flashing yellow light. The first one is slow down. This is not a race today. There's no reason not to err on the side of caution. Lift off the throttle under flashing yellow. Half throttle maximum, please. You should never be full throttle under a flashing yellow. You should never be 51% throttle under a flashing yellow. Half throttle maximum. Second rule is no passing. There's other vehicles in front of you. You have to stay behind them, stay in line. You may not overtake anybody. And both of these rules apply, we say, from light to light. Regardless of where the incident is, stay slowed down from the time you pass the flashing yellow light until you are past the next bunker and the light is off. Okay, as long as it's not flashing, basically. Okay, so from light to light, just because you're past the incident does not mean you're good to go. You have to be past the next bunker where the light is off before you can go back to full throttle, before you can overtake. So the 2 yellows are what we call local lights. You can have part of the track be under yellow, the rest of the track green. So that's a local condition. The next two lights you might see are global. If you see it at one station, it's at all of them simultaneously. The first one is unique to High Plains. I don't know if anybody else who uses this, but this is our police lights. For those of you with a racing license, this is black flag all. All this means is there's a reason out there that we need everybody to exit the track. Whatever that reason is not an emergency. Maybe we need to go clean up dirt, mud off the track, something like that. There's just some reason, everybody exit. So if you see the police lights, the only thing you have to do is the very next time you come by the track exit, you give your signal, left the white line, exit the track, come back to the paddock, and we'll let you know what's going on. We'll get you back out as quickly as we can. Maintain a decent pace. You don't have to slow through a crawl or anything. The longer it takes you to get off the track, the longer it's going to be before you and the rest of your group are back out under green flag conditions. So maintain good pace. Again, all this means is everybody exit, and if there's time left in your session, we'll get you back out. Otherwise, we might just roll to the next session. The other full course light that we hope we never have to use is the red. If something serious happens and we need to shut the event down immediately, the flashing red light comes on. If you see the flashing red, the first thing we want you to do is look in your mirror. Make sure there isn't somebody else right behind you who's still at speed, who might not have seen the light yet. Once you know the track behind you is clear, as quickly as you can safely bring the car to a stop on the asphalt. Just get to one side of the track or the other, stop the car, stay in the car with your helmet, seatbelts on, probably shut it off. You might be there for a little while and just kind of hang out. We might turn the red lights off while we're dealing with the incident, or it's a mechanical thing. One of the lights might fail. Point being, if the red light goes out, nothing has changed. After a red light situation, when we are ready for you guys to move the cars, we will give you a positive signal of one of two lights. Okay? The first light that you might see after a red light is the police lights. If the red changes to the police lights, which of course means everybody exit, start the car up, come around, exit the track, come back to the paddock. We'll make some announcements on the PA system to let you guys know what's going on. The other thing that might happen is, if whatever it is that caused the red turns out to not be as serious as we thought it was, we want to go back to hot track. But rather than bring everybody back here just to send you back out, we're just going to go directly back to hot track. And the way that we'll do that is we will turn on the flashing yellow at all of the bunkers, which of course means proceed but slowly. So everybody get the car started up, get rolling slowly. Once all of the corner workers tell us that all of the cars on the track are moving, we will change the flashing yellow to a green light at all of the stations, and we'll hold the green light on for 10 or 20 seconds, and we're right back to hot track. Okay? So again, red light, check your mirror, stop. Do not move the car, please, until you see either the police or the flashing yellow lights. Even if the lights go out, stay there until you see one of those two positive lights. Last light you're going to see today is the checkered. At the end of each one of the 30-minute sessions, we'll turn on a checkered light. The way the checkered light works is the guy in turn one, he'll pick a car and designate that to the other workers as the checker car. And as that car goes around the track, we'll turn this light on one at a time ahead of that car. So everybody will get a full lap under checkered. You can do a cool down lap and slow down if you want to. You can stay at speed if you want to. You can pass if you need to. All this means is the session's over and everybody exit the track. But again, you'll see this at all of the stations. It doesn't just come on all at once and you only get one corner. We talked about the go-home rules. The second one is, if you are paying so little attention to these lights that you manage to miss all 15 checkers and you keep going and getting your session, you will be done for the day. The lights are the only way we have to talk to you. Your half the bargain is you actually have to look at the lights in order to accept the communication. If you miss them all, we know you're not looking at them, and we will, you will be done. People kind of giggle. It happens at least once a day. It will happen today. So I can't stress enough. Look at the lights. Look at the bumpers, please. So let's talk about passing. There's going to be a lot of passing going on today. It's going to be pretty busy. First thing we want everybody to remember, today is not a race. We do have a lot of race cars here getting ready for a big event this weekend, but today is not the race, please. There's no reason to be ultra aggressive. Don't be the guy who wads his stuff up today and can't race the rest of the weekend because you made a bad choice. So no aggressive passes, please. Give people room. We do not have strict passing zones and no passing zones. I don't want to get into micromanaging to that extent, but what we do have is a general rule. What we would like to see is passing happen only when two things are both true. First thing is you're going straight. You're on a straightaway. The second thing is you're on the gas. So if those two things are true, you can pull out and pass the car in front of you, make your pass and do your thing, okay? Let faster cars pass. I know there's a lot of cars here that might have 8,000 horsepower, but just because you've got a lot of power, it doesn't necessarily make you the fastest car on the track. If somebody who can corner faster than you catches up to you, if a car appears in your mirror, that person's faster than you. Just because you can hit the loud pedal and beat them to the next corner where you're just going to hold them up again, please don't do that. If somebody appears in your mirror on the next straightaway, check your ego at the door, lift off the throttle, and let the other car go by. They will continue to pull away from you and nobody will get held up. If somebody else does catch up to you and is faster than you, it is not your job to get out of anybody's way. Your job is to be consistent and predictable, making the other car go around you. If somebody catches up to you and you dive to the other side of the track suddenly in an effort to get out of the way, you might think you're being polite, but from the faster driver's perspective, all you've done is become unpredictable. Now it's harder to make a safe pass, so don't get out of anybody's way, be predictable, be consistent. Point buys are not required on our lapping days. So point buys they're encouraged as a courtesy. Say, hey, pass me on the left, pass me on the right, give somebody a signal. But if you come up behind another car and they don't know that you're there for whatever reason, they don't give you a point buy, you don't have to camp out behind them until they do. Just make your pass when it's safe and appropriate. Keep doing your thing. The last thing is report aggressive driving. What is aggressive? If you do something that causes another driver to have to do something they didn't intend to do, you're being too aggressive on an open lapping day. If that happens to you, if somebody pushes you offline or dive onto you late into a corner or something, please come and tell us about it. We're happy to address it and talk to the driver, but please come and tell us about it right away. As in, at the end of the lap that it happens on, give your signal, exit the track, left that bike line, come up to the meatball flag sign, come inside the office and say, hey, this just happened. If you know the corner that it happened in, that's great. If not, just let us know. Everything out here is being recorded. So if you come and tell us about it right away, we can go back on the video, we can watch the incident for ourselves, and we can go and talk to that other driver if we need to. But when we go and talk to them, it's nice to be able to talk to them from the perspective of, I just watched this with my own eyes. It's not a he said, she said kind of thing. But if you wait until the end of the session or the end of the day, and you come and say, hey, this happened, well, we're not going to go back through hours of video trying to find it. So if you want us to address it, we're happy to do that, but please come and tell us about it at the end of the lap that it happens on. Mechanical problems. Hopefully, all of the race cars out there should have a really good tow point on them. Street cars, install your tow hooks. More and more of the newer cars today, all the Porsches, BMWs, Audis, Subarus, etc., they have a screw-in tow hook. Looks just like this. It's in your toolkit with your spare tire. It goes in a hole in your front bumper. If your car has that option, please install that in your front bumper before you go out on the track. That makes it a lot easier for us to tow the car. And one of the reasons they're doing this is these cars are getting so aerodynamic, top and bottom, that if you don't have your tow hook installed, it can be really difficult to find something to hook onto and tow the car without damaging it, tearing the chip spoiler off or whatever. So do yourself a favor, please install your tow hook before you go out onto the track. If you're having any kind of a problem with the car, the best thing you can do is just stop. Find a straightaway, get to the side of the track, off the racing line, stop the car. We'll come out with a record, figure out the best way to get the car back to the paddock. If the car is damaged and you limp it back to the paddock, all you're doing is doing more damage. And if you're leaking, you're going to get fluid on more of the track than you already have, which ruins everybody else's day. So if you're having a problem, the best thing to do is just stop. That's not a big deal. We will come out and get it taken care of. What is a big deal is if you have to stop the car anywhere on the track, and when we say on the track, it has nothing to do with dirt versus asphalt. From the time you pass the wristband checker here, until you get back onto the hot pit lane right here, you are considered on the track. So if you have to stop the car anywhere out here, the number one rule is stay in the car, please. Helmet on, seatbelts tight, that's the safest place for you on the racetrack. The only excuse to get out of the car today on the track is if the car is on fire. If you get out of the car today and it's not on fire, you had better set it on fire before you get there. That's our third go-home rule. If you get out of the car and it's not on fire, you will be done for the day, probably longer. We'll probably ask you not to come back for a while. We really take that one seriously. Please stay in the car on the racetrack. We will send a tow truck out on a hot track to pick up disabled vehicles. So if you see somebody sitting on the side of the track, expect that in the next lap or two, you'll see the tow truck going to get them. It'll be me driving it. I won't be going as fast as you are. You're free to pass the tow truck just like everybody else. It will be covered by a standing yellow as I'm making my way around the track. This is a heads up. But again, you can pass the tow truck. You don't have to stack up behind it. Once I get to the disabled vehicle, I'm out of the tow truck. There will be at least one flashing yellow prior to where I'm at. Again, please respect the flashing yellows. Lift off the throttle. Don't buzz the tow truck right over the throttle. Tires squealing while I'm laying on the ground trying to hook onto a car, because that makes me a little nervous. We do hot tows as a courtesy to you guys to keep the track on as much as possible. But if people aren't respecting the flashing yellow and they're not slowing down next to the tow truck, that might change for the rest of the day. Okay, every time something happens, we'll turn the police lights on, bring everybody in, then we'll go tow the car, and you guys can spend a lot of time in the paddock. So if you want the track to stay hot, half throttle under flashing yellows, especially when there's a tow truck out there. So spins and four offs. If you lose control of the car today, a couple things we want to talk about. First thing is we define a spin as if you spin the car around, you lose control to the point that the car comes to rest anywhere on the asphalt. That's how we define a spin. A four off is if all four wheels leave the asphalt. You blow a turn, you go up into the dirt, that kind of thing. That's what we call a four off. So first thing, if any of those things happen, or a combination of those things happens, turn the car around, join back into traffic as quickly and safely as you can, and then the very next time you come by the track exit, we want you to automatically put your hand up, give your signal, left to the white line, you exit the track, and come and stop at the meatball flag sign. Right there. We just want to have a quick chat. We want to make sure you're okay, make sure the car's not damaged, and we'll send you right back out. But you have to come in and see us automatically every time you spin, every time you go four off. If you forget, we'll bring the meatball flag out and remind you to come in and see us. But then when you do come in, not only do you get to explain why you went off, you get to explain why you forgot the rules. So come in and see us automatically. You spin, you go off. If you spin off the track and you're facing the wrong direction, you're facing oncoming traffic, we want to talk about how to turn the car around, which is always turn away from the track, away from the asphalt to do your U-turn. So what we mean by that is, so let's say you're going into this turn, and as you're going through, you manage to spin off, and you end up facing the wrong direction. So here your instinct might be, well, there's the track, I'll just turn left and get right back on. But if you turn towards the track, you come on at a sharper angle, less time for people to react, it's just not as safe in general. So if you need to turn the car around, we always want you to turn away from the asphalt, get the car turned around, and then you can parallel the track and merge on at a shallow angle further down. Okay, it's really smooth out there. It might be a little soft today, but you shouldn't have any problems. But always turn away from the track and turn around. The other thing about spinning is, if you've been to any one of the major schools, you've probably heard, if you're going to spin, both feet in. And both feet in refers to as in pushing the pedals down. So this refers mainly to the three pedal cars with a clutch, but it still applies to everybody. Basically what it means is if you have lost control of the car and you're at the mercy of the laws of physics, we want you to put both feet in. You got the clutch, put the clutch in so the motor doesn't stall, and then either way, right foot on the brake pedal as hard as you can until the car comes to a complete stop. The idea behind this is if the car is spinning, at some point it's going to regain traction. And if you don't have the brakes locked up, it's then going to roll in whatever direction it happens to be pointed when that happens, which can be really unpredictable for the people behind you. Whereas if you've got the brakes locked up, the car will just come to a stop. So, we got another example of why we say this. So this first car here, he's going to spin out, but he's not going to lock up his brakes. And when he regains traction about here, he just rolls and almost takes out the car behind him. So if he would have just put his foot hard on the brake, he would have stopped over here. This guy was already ready for that, and this guy wouldn't have had to avoid him. Luckily, he was heads up and he did. But if you're going to spin, lock up the brakes. All right, let's talk about sessions. Raise your hand if you are here in an SCCA spec racer open wheel type car. Okay, raise your hand if you are in any type of a logbook race car. If you don't know what a logbook race car is, don't raise your hand. All logbook race cars. Okay, so I think what I'd like to do today, especially with the number of first timers that we've got, because I think we've got more race cars showing up anyways, instead of doing the typical fast and slow, we're going to do logbook race cars in one 30-minute session and non-logbook race cars in the other 30-minute session. If you don't know what a logbook race car is, you're not in one. Okay, you're in a street car. Okay, so we're going to do production car. Non-logbook race cars are going to go out at the top of each hour, so 8 to 8:30, 9 to 9:30, and so on. Logbook race cars, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, and so on for 30-minute sessions. The checkered lights come on 26 minutes into the session. So make sure you're at pre-grid a little bit early, ready to go out on the hour, on the half hour. The other thing we're going to change is, as far as coming in automatically when you spin or you go off, the logbook race car session, that is not mandatory. We're going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt to know whether or not something's wrong with you or your car. You don't have to report it every time. If you want us to check the car, by all means come in and stop at the meatball flag sign. We'll come out, we'll check the car. That's not a big deal, but it's not mandatory. If you're spinning or going off and the logbook race car becomes chronic, we will pull the meatball flag out and you get to come in and explain to us why you can't stay on the asphalt and point it in the right direction. But street cars, still mandatory. Every time you spin, every time you go off, you have to report to the meatball flag sign every time, please. Questions about